And welcome back to Creative Thinkers. Once again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela, and we have again another special guest, Jazmin Rivera, who is the creative director of Tumbleweed Collective. Thank you for coming, Jazmin. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So one of the things that we had talked about a little bit earlier was the fact that you are this very creative individual. Was this something that kind of came about one day, or was it something that you were born with? What do you think?
I think I had to become creative. My initial encounter with dance and with the artist community was as a supporter, as attending events, seeing people dance, and that's what inspired me to enter a dance career. So I started dancing when I was 19.
Okay.
And for most people that pursue the career in dance, they usually start at a younger age. So I was a late bloomer in that area. But then, as I became more involved in performing, and I started to discover my creator side of choreography. So I think that mainly for me as a dancer, I rely very little on my technique, but I do more organic and more creative as a message that I want to convey for everyday people.
So when you were younger, you weren't really thinking about being a dancer. When you were younger, what kinds of influences did you have?
Well, my parents were business owners, so I was. They run multiple business. My dad was a lawyer, so he had enough sources to invest in other businesses. So my mom she is a wonderful cook. So, and I think that is part of a form of creativity, right?
Absolutely.
To see and to feed a lot of people, to be able to create meals that are not only delicious but very traditional to our Mexican culture.
Are you from El Paso originally?
I was born here, but I was raised in Juarez until I entered high school. I came back to study here in El Paso.
So coming from a Mexican background, because it's rich with culture, I mean, folklorico, what can't you say about it, how beautiful it is, the dresses, just the whole kind of history associated with it. But you weren't doing that, and you're not doing that. You're doing contemporary. How did you make that kind of switch from what is more traditional and old school, I guess we could say, to this more contemporary?
I think I was able to dance folklorico when I was in the school as a young kid. I did folklorico for our school for festivals and stuff like that. But when I started developing myself as a creator in dance, I was very influenced by my mentors, my teachers from EPCC. My first dance performance, I was with Christy Mitchell. She was the head of the department here in dance at EPCC. And then after I graduated the university, my then mentor, Andrea, she took me under her company. So that's when we started doing traveling, performing in Mexico City, in Guadalajara, in New York, and then we went to Italy and we performed out there. So that's what contemporary dance was always a more global view for all audiences to be able to receive.
And I think it's interesting because one thing that we mentioned prior to the interview was that there is a difference between modern and contemporary, and even like old school folklorico. How do they blend together, and how are they different? First, start with the contemporary aspect. What exactly is contemporary dance? Because I don't think a lot of people know.
So contemporary dance, it really explores a blend of different techniques. So you can draw movement from jazz, from ballet, from classical or more world dance that you can blend into influence a message. So an image that you want to convey or a message that you feel is relevant, that you want to communicate. Or like I was mentioning to you, like I like to maybe talk about current issues or current situations that we are seeing maybe in the news or in the radio or listening to. And modern was a technique that came about after people that wanted to break away from classical ballet, because ballet was very much for the people that had the money to pay for classes, that had the physique, so it was very selective, very, very elitist. And modern became more for our everyday people, for people that maybe were from not a high families with a lot of money or a lot of influence in the arts or stuff like that. And it started to just break away from ballet. So that was what became modern technique.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, what you're saying is that ballet is the fundamental kind of basis of all of these dances.
Of modern, it was what...
Or is it taking away from it, getting away from it?
Taking away from the rigidness and from the exclusiveness of who were the dancers, who was being able to perform, who was being taught the dance.
But was it more of an elite thing? Because I understand that a lot of people, when we talk about art, feel like it is an elite thing. Like the wealthy can appreciate art, but if I'm not wealthy, then why do I even want to go to a museum? But that's not the case. Why is it important for you to actually go out and dance and create this program that you have?
Yes. So one of the main reasons why we created our Tumbleweed Collective was to bring contemporary and our ideas into the everyday people. So our very first performance was at the farmers market in the downtown of El Paso, and then that same show we put into a very strange area in the downtown area. So we were bringing dance to areas that were maybe not used to seeing dance performance as much as they're seeing music or as they're seeing art, painting and stuff like that. So our main reason was to bring dance to our everyday people.
Why is it important for you to bring dance to everyday people? How does that change people's lives? I know how art affects people when I show them a painting or a sculpture, but how does dance do what it does for people?
Well, because dance is in the very nature of ourselves. It
movement.
Is movement. It is, yeah, movement. And going back to the roots of dance, like the ancient dance was performed usually in communities, was usually done in gatherings and in celebration as a form of community. So I think that when we see as dancers as these heavenly beings, it is just like disconnecting ourselves from what we really have in our every essence of our being.
Yeah, one of the things that I speak about in my class specifically is how a painting, let's take the Mona Lisa for example, is very much like dance. Because a lot of people think dance is dance and painting is painting. But in reality what we're talking about is art. What is art for you? I
think art is part of our every day or every action, the way that we speak, the way that we communicate, the way that we see people or how people perceive us. And specifically as a movement analyst, I think that our body speaks louder than words, right? So
like our demeanor,
kind of? Our demeanor, yes. One of the things that I say that I've been studying other forms of psychology and human development, it's that what the mind forgets, the body remembers.
What do you mean? I think that's interesting.
Yeah. So let's say, for example, I got bit by a dog, right? And
don't remind me of that because I actually did.
I got bit by a dog.
You did too?
Yes.
No way. Tell us then. And then
And-
maybe I'll tell you my story.
I got bit by a dog, and then subconsciously I got scared of dogs.
Me too.
My body would react differently, even though I had already forgotten that it happened. But my body remembers. So whenever I would be walking around my block and I would be near a dog or anything like that, my body would react. And it was like not consciously, right? So,
Yeah.
so I think that is just like a very natural thing for our body to gives us that response.
So I think what I'm understanding is that today, not a lot of people dance. Like in other cultures, older cultures, a lot of people would see this as an maybe not everyday thing, but something that they could do naturally. And we are restricting ourselves?
Yes, I think so.
How?
I think a lot of things may be technology, or we become more disconnected with our body. We have a lot of influences from maybe feeling bad as body image or self-image, right? So, and I think I see, for example, if you see kids, like they dance, they don't think about what other people are thinking. They don't want to see themselves as the other people are seeing them, but they just are.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that, because I believe it's New Zealanders, and I don't know if you've seen them, where they have that kind of like chanting war dance, and they'll do it anywhere. It's like, my cousin is coming in from out of town, and he's coming in on the plane, and they'll get like 20 New Zealanders, and they'll do this super cool dance, right? They don't care who's around, and everybody's like, whoa. And then the other people get into it. So do you feel that it's society maybe?
I think so.
How is it affecting us? And why is it affecting us? Why, if it's so natural for us, don't we just do it?
I think maybe exposure. If you go to our education system, dance it's optional, right? It's not.
So is art.
So it's art. They're not included as part of our very basic development. When in nature they are, So I think because we have been focused so much on the science, technology, education, and math.
STEM, not STEAM, right?
That they are taking that away from us. And in reality, if we are not looking for it, if we don't have somebody influencing us or attending to our artistic needs, like for example, like me and my husband, like we are both artists, right? Like he's a musician, I'm an artist as well, and we have that in our nature, right? But we weren't influenced because of our parents, like our parents had nothing to do. We just had to find a passion for it and we're able to pursue it.
So do you think that to some degree it's inherent in you and in everybody?
Yeah.
In which way?
Well, everybody has a body.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I ask that because I know as children, I can walk into any daycare and kids are running around like crazy, right? Not crazy because they're crazy, but crazy because we in society don't really see that dancing around for 20 minutes is a norm,
Yeah.
It's not normal for people to do that when we're adults. But in my house, I do.
Yeah.
In my house, when I'm in the shower, I might sing and do a lot of things that a lot of other people may not do. But because we're taught that. So I find it very interesting that you mentioned that. And I really like the fact that you're bringing it to the people. Can you give us an example of how people have reacted when they see what you do? Like, because, being in, did you say Segundo Barrio or something like that? Some kind of out of the norm place. How do they react?
Yes. So we were bringing the collective into the farmers market where there's a lot of people from all ages, right? And usually the people that were drawn to be part of our activities were kids or younger adults.
So you invite them?
Yes, we invite them to take that ballet class. We have portable bars, and they would come and do a bar.
Cool. Yeah.
And then for the Earth Day celebration, and we were invited, and we were doing improvisation and bringing people on board and just imitating sounds, imitating nature, imitating a tree, imitating the water and stuff like that. So it's just like being able to embody those elements that are in our surroundings, and mostly the people that were actively engaged were the people that are usually the younger or also other creative people.
Yeah, and I think that's key, having creative people. How important is creativity in your life?
Very important. I have a 3-year-old, so
very creative.
You're very creative.
Right.
He is always looking to be entertained. We need to always be like interactively. He wants to be involved in cooking, in making his meals. He wants to go outside. He wants to play with dirt and all these things. And it's just like we have to keep changing and adapting our activities in order to his development. And that's one of the things that I talked about this. My dream is to homeschool my little one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and in order to do that, it's like, well, and this is one of the things that my one of my teachers told me. He's like, you already are the first teacher. You know, like
absolutely,
parents are the first teachers.
Yeah, which I think is one of the things that most people don't really understand. I don't think that they grasp the concept of how creative they are because they've been taught to not be that way. And when they're thinking outside the box, it might not be a norm for them. Mm-hmm. But getting onto another subject, you don't just creatively do this. You do something else.
Yes.
And that's some sort of financial thing, yes, right? Which is totally different. Mm-hmm. How in the world do these two worlds blend?
Yes, well, when we became part of the shutdown, and we had to find different ways to make to reach out to people and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The opportunity came for me and for my husband to become part of a team. And I think that as being a creative and a person that I like to be with people and to direct people and to teach others, being part of the financial education has really allowed me to use a lot of the skills that I attain as a creative, being an active listener, you know, always learning new things, and then putting those things into practice in how to help our community, how to help them establish a financial foundation for themselves and for their families.
How is it important for you to kind of allow these individuals to learn what you have learned financially speaking? Because since it's not taught in school, and we've already spoken about that as far as painting and drawing and dance. These are all electives. Mm-hmm. I don't even believe that there is an elective to learn about finances. So how important is it for you, and why is it important?
Mm-hmm. I think economics is part of our everyday life, you know, mm-hmm, and it's something that we maybe not consciously have to manage, you know, like we have to manage putting gas, knowing how long it's going to last, you know, how often you have to refill your tank, or how to budget your monthly income into mm-hmm, your expenses and stuff like that. And I think that there is one of the things that one of my mentors says, that is being in debt is the real pandemic, because everybody is in debt, you know, and mm-hmm, we're hardly ever taught how to manage that, how to measure the amount of income, the amount of resources that we have, and what we are actually spending or saving.
And when you inform them of these things, are they enlightened? How do they react?
Well, the one thing that they always say is like, nobody has ever talked to me about this.
Which is true. I mean, my father, very successful individual, you know, he did very, very well for himself. But we, as his children, never were taught these types of things, which I find, you know, troublesome to a certain degree, but maybe he didn't have the tools to teach us. What kinds of tools do you use to help people understand these ideas and concepts?
So we do 5 things. It's called the 5 pillars of financial education, mm-hmm, so one is managing credit and debt. Mm-hmm. The other one is protection, meaning making sure that if in the event that anything were to happen to us, our family is not being left with debt, but
Yeah.
it actually has a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is financial planning, planning for retirement,
Mm-hmm.
planning for children, like college savings and stuff like that. And then the other is finding a foundation as an emergency fund. That in the event of like what happened with the pandemic, you know, like we relied on the government to give us our emergency fund, right?
Right,
When
right.
in reality, it's our responsibility, and we are the ones who have to have these habits and building the discipline to save and to create a wealth for our future.
Do you think that dancing has helped you in your new venture?
I think so, yeah. A lot of the things that I learned, long hours of
I can imagine.
of practice,
Right.
learning choreography, creating choreography, being able to convey messages to audience without voice,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So, and that's one of the things that we're able to, or I'm able to perceive, you know, like body language, how people may feel uncomfortable when we bring up certain things. Maybe there's something that they're not telling you,
Mm-hmm.
but then as the relationship with our people develops, like these things will eventually be coming up.
And when these people actually get the knowledge, is it very difficult for them to move forward with these ideas? Have you found that? Or are they like, wow, I'm enlightened, nobody's taught me this, let's move forward?
Yeah. And a lot of the times, what happens as well is we bring the information. Some people will act on it, some people will not. And then something would happen. Maybe a family passes away, and they are able to.
That's the
say,
catalyst for them
there's
to
a
say,
catalyst.
okay, I
Yes.
get it now.
Uh-huh.
Does it always have to be something severe?
No, maybe a life event. Maybe they get married. Maybe they start maybe things change in their life. They change careers. They have children or anything like that. Maybe sometimes positive things can trigger for them to actually act on having a financial plan for themselves.
Do you feel like you're in a completely different world now? They seem to be very different. What are your thoughts?
No, because it is my same community. I'm still
Very
doing it
nice.
for my people, right? So it is here, and it is in the city of El Paso that I find that maybe these connections from art, from finances, is maybe like a generational curse that we have as a culture. You know, a lot of people don't believe in talking about money. They don't talk about it. So, like, if you don't talk about it, it's because you're not going to have it, right?
And one of the things that I find really interesting is the fact that a lot of people, and I don't know if this is cultural or not, and definitely not just in this city, all around, it's like, I figured out a way to make money. That's my secret now. I don't want to inform anybody else. It's almost like, you know, if I tell you my secret or my way of doing what I'm doing, then you may steal it from me. Is this something that you run into?
No.
Because I feel like it's for everybody.
The very nature of our business, it's to share the knowledge. So we are very much in the word of mouth. So our networking is word of mouth. You refer somebody, and then they would think of somebody else that needs it. So then they'll refer you to that person. And in a lot of the cases, it might not be there just yet because they don't know you as a financial person.
Right.
But eventually they will see, okay, you're still doing this. You're already more knowledgeable than when you started. So eventually, if they don't do it at the beginning, maybe eventually they will come. And if maybe they don't do it with you, they can do it with somebody else.
And going back to the collective, because I find that really intriguing, how was it that you put that together?
So what my
Because I feel like you're putting something together now. You know? Mm-hmm.
So my mentor that was my dance teacher and my
At UTEP
contemporary
or
at
EPCC?
UTEP.
Uh-huh.
She created a dance collective. It was called Another River, interdisciplinary collective. And she left. She moved to Iowa.
Oh,
So the
okay.
core dancers, we were left, right? So she was the director and she left. So then us collectively, we started we continued our journey as a collective, and then we named ourselves Tumbleweed due to the nature of
Right.
the area,
Right.
the Tumbleweed Collective. And then the other dancers are full-time teachers and educators. So I was the one that had the most flexibility to
Right.
be able to manage time, manage booking, manage resources, manage the marketing. And I am very connected with a lot of different creators, like photographers, videographers, musicians, of course.
Right.
And that's how I became to manage the whole collective.
So what's coming in the future for the collective?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I share with you when we were talking is that I refuse to go virtual, right?
Right.
So, and then that's one of the things I was like, no, dance is meant to be seen live. Dance is meant for you to
Absolutely.
feel it, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So right now I am finding different people that are maybe a new core of dancers that I can start creating with. I already have in mind some different platforms where I can bring them on to be able to perform live in the, and of course in the community here in El Paso.
So have you lost some dancers then?
Yes, one of the other mentors, Christy Mitchell, she is studying in Colorado. She's in Boulder right now. She's finishing a master's in dance. So she has another 6 months up there. And then my other dancers are still full-time teachers. When everything were virtual, just the timing was not good for them. That they did not ever have time to be able to commit to rehearsing and all of that.
To get things together.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wants to become part of your collective, because it sounds really exciting, how does one?
So
how can they get a hold of you? How can the viewers get a hold of you?
So I have a Facebook page. It's called Tumbleweed Collective. They can add me there, message me, and then they can see what we're about, and then we can set up something for maybe like a movement and see a little bit of movement exploration.
Is there an age limit of some sort?
So I would advise maybe if they are in the higher levels of education, I would maybe not full-time students, because I know full-time students have a lot of commitments already. But if they are willing, if they're able to manage their time, I think maybe any people that are interested in dance, not necessarily already professionals or maybe not a dance background. I'd like to work with people from all ages and all backgrounds.
All backgrounds. Well, I wanted to thank you for taking your time out to see us today, because we always need creative people around, and you are one of those people. Thank you for taking your time.
Thank you, Miguel, for having me.
And I wanted to thank all of our viewers for tuning in once again. Again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you very much.